This lockdown review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and there will be peace in the Middle East. Wait. So, just because I was standing in a doorway brandishing a hammer, that means I must be the leader of the Aces and Eights? Guys, come on, man. You're smarter than this. That could mean any number of things.
Well, Fulker, you got to put yourselves in our shoes, man. You know, we were on your side this whole time, and then that picture just shows up out of nowhere under our door of all things. And, you know, me and NJ are just sitting there thinking, you know, we just don't know what to think anymore, man. Seriously.
Look, I know, okay? I know what you must be thinking right now, but you gotta believe me, I'm being set up.
Well, you have to admit, it looks awful suspicious, Fulker.
Well, of course it looks suspicious. I mean, I saw the picture. It's supposed to look suspicious, that's the whole point. But it's all circumstantial, it doesn't prove anything.
Well, cancel this. What were we even doing with that hammer anyway? I thought you said that thing had disappeared.
It did. It still is. The picture must have been taken months ago. Somebody took it and kept it as insurance, waiting until the right time to incriminate me, and then sent it to you guys, the only ones who are publicly defending me, as a way to discredit you. But why now? Why now, just when I was distracted dealing with Smokey? It can't be a coincidence. It can't be.
I don't know, man. Conspiracy stuff sounds really unlikely. What were you even doing to her anyway? Do you have an explanation for that?
Of course I have an explanation for it. I mean, I was just... I'll call you back.
That was just for fuck's sake. I can't believe this thing anymore.
So, you're back. Mm-hmm. Interesting timing. You didn't happen to have anything to do with a certain picture that was sent to the British Fist, did you? Picture? Yeah. You know, the picture of me with that hammer that mysteriously vanished? The one that made me look all #guilty? I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Really? And I suppose you also wouldn't know anything about how the front door was mysteriously left open so Smokey could sneak into the house. Smokey was here? Is that why there are bloodstains all over the carpet? Yeah. I busted him open when I dropped the people's elbow on him. But you already knew that. Don't play dumb. I know it was you who let him in. Let him in? I've been gone for the last few weeks. This is the first I'm hearing about any of this. Convenient. So where did you disappear to anyway? None of your fucking business. Anyway, don't you have a show to review? Let me ask you something, TNA. Did you or did you not cut 8 shows from your pay-per-view model so you could give the big 4 shows more build-up? That was the idea, right? So can you please explain to me why you're pulling matches out of your ass with no build-up whatsoever on this pay-per-view? We got an X Division title match that was never even announced on the TV show, and I love Joseph Park to death. I am Park Mark #1. But where the hell did Joseph Park Joey Ryan come from? Have these guys ever even appeared in the same segment together? If you were going to book these two, why not give them some kind of build-up? Why not focus a little bit on that instead of doing things like James Storm versus Jesse Goddard for seemingly no reason at all? It just seems like a really inappropriate time to start throwing out random place filler matches, you know? Could you really not be bothered to put together a full card in advance for one of your biggest shows of the whole year?
You people are fools!
Not shockingly, the X Division title match was the opener. Now, apparently Bob Van Dam's contract expired or something, so in the absence of any kind of real feud, this was, let's just throw the 3 remaining people in the X Division into a match and let them have a spot fest to make the crowd happy. It really wasn't about anything more than that. I enjoyed it in that capacity. There were a couple sloppy spots. Poor Kenny King looked like he killed himself on that botched moonsault. God damn, that looked like it hurt. Kudos to him for shaking it off. But generally it was a fun opener. The right guy went over, the right guy got pinned. There isn't much else to say, really. It did what it needed to do. But with this basically being the whole X Division right now, they've already exhausted every fresh matchup they can make, so hopefully they'll get Joey Ryan and Rockstar Spud in there soon. And by soon, I mean this Thursday. Joseph Park versus Joey Ryan. This was a random TV match with no build-up whatsoever between 2 guys who have never had anything to do with each other, one of whom I don't think we've seen since Genesis. I don't know what it was doing here. We were given absolutely no reason to care about it. I liked it because it had 2 characters I enjoyed, but that's really it. And Joey Ryan had to cut a promo for the crowd to give this some kind of context, and probably to remind the fans that he's a heel since it's been so long since we've seen him. And unfortunately, that just goes to show how this match really had no reason to be there. I love Joseph Park's facial expressions. How he always looks completely stunned every time the match is going his way. Like when Joey Ryan charged at him and he bounced off, and Joseph couldn't believe it. He was like, you know... It'll probably wear thin before too long, but stuff like that makes him really easy to get behind. He's a true fish out of water character, and I think that's a big reason why people root for Joseph Park. And with that, I probably just put more thought into this match than the writers did. Knockouts title match, Gail Kim versus Velvet Sky. What do you want me to say about this? Is there any point in recapping it? It was Gail Kim versus Velvet Sky. We all knew what this was going to deliver because we've seen it 100 times before. Wasn't really a bad match. I mean, Gail's always been able to pull something halfway decent out of Velvet, although the best selling in the world isn't going to make her clotheslines look any good. Ugh. Predictably, the match followed the same pattern Velvet's matches have been falling into since she won the title, in that the focus really wasn't on her, it was on other stuff. In this case, the Gail Kim Taryn Terrell thing. And that's probably the smart way to book Velvet's matches, let's be honest. Taryn attacking Gail got a good reaction from the crowd. That's a positive sign. I guess her switching to a wrestling role is imminent now, maybe as soon as Open Fight Night. So, hallelujah, new knockout in the mix. I just hope she's been training her ass off since the last time I saw her wrestle, because judging by her recent stint in OVW, there's a lot of room for improvement. Robbie E versus Rob Terry. Thank you very much, TNA, for stealing 6 minutes of my life that I will never get back. Why on earth did this get so much time? When Robbie E came out to dead fucking silence, I think we all knew what was going to happen here. The "you can't wrestle" chant started before they even locked up, and long before Robbie broke out the rest hold of doom. Let's just call this what it is, okay? The only reason why any of those people were even watching this was to see Rob Terry dance. That's all this should have been. The bell rings, Robbie gets chokeslammed out of his boots, 1, 2, 3, Rob Terry dances, the whole thing is done in 60 seconds. But instead, you have them wrestle for 6 sleep-inducing minutes when everyone knows this is not either man's strong suit. No one in the arena gives a shit about this match, and on top of that, Terry doesn't even dance after he wins. To call this a piss break match is being generous.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
Tag team title match, Bad Influence versus Los Stereotypicos versus the Wet Dream Team. And thankfully they worked out the Bobby Roode contract situation. Oh man, this was funny. Los Stereotypicos are in their home state. Probably the only place in the world outside of the Impact Zone where they'll actually get some cheers. And they're the only team that doesn't get a pre-match promo. Because their promos are so bad, TNA can't even give them the mic in Texas.
I'm laughing at you.
I confess I wasn't really digging this one for a while. Probably because Los Stereotypicos controlled a lot of it, which I suppose had to be done to make the hometown crowd happy because they obviously weren't going to win. But it was a solid match. I can't complain about it, and I won't. I'm glad the Wet Dream Team retained, but I don't see why Bad Influence had to eat the pin. I mean, that's the tag team feud that everyone wants to see, so why are you having them lose when you got Los Stereotypicos playing the obvious third wheel here?
You guys suck.
Bad Influence really deserve better than this. They're one of the most entertaining acts in the whole company, and yet they lose matches constantly. I don't understand that at all. Then the cage finally came down for this steel cage pay-per-view. It's just unfortunate that the cage matches got off to such an underwhelming start. Kurt Angle versus Wes Briscoe was pretty much the match I thought it would be. Angle wrestling circles around Wes kind of looking like he didn't belong there, like he wasn't on Kurt's level because he really isn't. My opinion that Wes Briscoe was thrown into this spot way too soon stands, I'm afraid.
Yet again, I am standing before another ignoramus.
Kurt did the only interesting stuff in this whole match, like the German suplex off the ropes, that was really cool. But Wes really didn't do anything exciting here. He seemed like he was struggling just to keep up. He wasn't bad, although his facial expressions are pretty laughable, but he wasn't good either. And he did nothing to make me think he deserved to be in this match. And that kind of encapsulates his entire run in TNA so far. If you've got Kurt Angle in a steel cage on one of the biggest shows of the whole year, he's in the driver's seat through practically everything, and still the match is just okay at best, something's not clicking. I don't know what they see in Wes Briscoe, but whatever it is, I haven't seen it yet. And for the record, TNA, I have no desire to see Kurt Angle versus D'Lo Brown. Absolutely none. Then we had Lethal Lockdown. And when the main crux of the match is the perceived threat of the Jobbers and Scrubs, but everything that you've shown us up to this point leads us to believe that the Jobbers and Scrubs pose no credible threat to anyone, well, then the match isn't very compelling, is it? No, it's not. And that problem is only made worse by the fact that the Jobbers and Scrubs are a bunch of no-talent buffoons. Anderson, okay. But Devon is a should-be mid-carder. We all know the only reason why Garrett Bischoff is there. And I never thought Doc and Mike Knox were any good. And they've done their best to prove me right ever since they showed up. The first half of this was pretty boring, honestly. It didn't really pick up until Sting brought the weapons in. And after that, there were two cool spots in this match. The Tower of Doom, which was amazing, and Eric Young doing the elbow off the top of the cage. Everything else was pretty much what we've come to expect, which is the Jobbers and Scrubs getting their asses kicked. And there was no roof on the cage this time. What happened to the roof? Did they get rid of it just so they could do that EY spot? I don't know. That was weird. It did tell a story, though, with Eric Young watching Sting's back during the match and Sting giving him that moment at the end, letting him get the pin. So you had EY earning Sting's trust, which had been set up on Impact. That was nice. I wish the announcers had called more attention to it, but it's really hard for them to stay focused when you got Taz out there distracting and arguing with Tenay and Kennelly instead of calling the goddamn show like he's supposed to, and really cementing himself as the worst announcer in wrestling today, period.
I got a factoid for both you guys. I got a boil on my ass.
I had very little investment in this match going in because the Jobbers and Scrubs are such a worthless faction, but the work the babyfaces put in here kept this from being a waste of time. Team TNA made it worth watching, and that's more than I thought I'd get out of this. Main event time. For the World Heavyweight Championship, Jeff Hardy defending against Bully Ray. Even if you were still on the fence about this, if you still didn't know what was going to happen here after that pre-tape with Bully and Hogan, then this was probably the first wrestling show you've ever watched. And seriously, they couldn't have telegraphed this one more if they'd tried. It was a good main event. They worked hard. The powerbomb off the top of the cage was unbelievable. But the only thing anyone really cares about is the finish, so let's talk about the finish. I will credit them for attempting some misdirection here. Sending Briscoe and Bischoff out to interfere early might have fooled some people into thinking that Jobbers and Scrubs wouldn't interfere later. Personally, I kind of figured that's what this was about, but it was a nice try at least. Then the Jobbers and Scrubs show up a second time, and for some reason, the babyfaces are nowhere to be seen. You'd think Team TNA would come out to run them off, but no, they never showed up. And why? Never explained. So then... then, the Jobbers and Scrubs help Bully Ray win, and he's the new World Heavyweight Champion.
Surprise, motherfucker!
And not only that, but Bully then reveals himself as the president of the Jobbers and Scrubs. And you know what that means, people. Let's be clear about something. I have no problem with Bully Ray being the world champion. No problem at all. He's more than earned that, and I'm happy for him. But was this the huge, shocking surprise which no one saw coming that TNA seemed to think it was? Not even a little bit. Hell, Ray Charles could have seen this one coming, and he doesn't know anything about wrestling. Buzzing! What do you mean Harry Plinkett is suing me? How could it be the same joke if I changed the name to Ray Charles and the topic to pro wrestling? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I see. That actually makes sense. I guess I better get a lawyer then. It's hard to review this when it seems like a lot of it was depending on shock value to sell it, and there really wasn't any. I mean, be honest now. Raise your hand if you didn't see this coming months in advance. Put your hand down. What do you mean Doc Pepper is suing me? Seeing as how everyone and their brother had been calling this since around Bound for Glory, I guess the only thing we can do is judge it on the outcome rather than the predictable nature of the whole thing. So what did this accomplish? Well, Bully Ray is a heel again. That's good. The Jobbers and Scrubs finally have a credible member that can actually get over. That's good. On the other hand, instead of ending this interminable storyline, it's going to mean even more time spent on people who really shouldn't be getting any, i.e. any member of the Jobbers and Scrubs not named Bully Ray or Ken Anderson. That's bad. It also means we could potentially be looking at a Bully Ray versus Hulk Hogan match at some point. That's really fucking bad. Hopefully they won't go down that road.
Destination? Horror.
There are some pros and cons to consider here, but I'll say this. If anyone can at least make this joke of a faction somewhat interesting, it's Bully Ray. So there's that. Generally, Lockdown turned out a little better than I thought it would. I went in with very low expectations. I was just hoping there would be some good wrestling and that the Bully Ray heel turn would come off well. Aside from the waste of 6 minutes with the Robbies, there weren't really any bad matches, though a few were pretty underwhelming. And the Bully Ray angle, while as predictable as anything we've seen in wrestling in the last several years, was at least well executed, and it did get over. I mean, hell, this was the only time the crowd seemed to give a rat's ass about any member of the Jobbers and Scrubs all night. It got the reaction they wanted, and all things considered, we couldn't have asked for much more than that. So, admittedly, I wasn't expecting much out of Lockdown, but I liked it. And now for the part that I've been waiting for. Last year, I was accused of being the leader of the Aces and Eights. And even though the evidence against me was flimsy, circumstantial, baseless, I was met with mistrust. I became something of a pariah, with many of my supporters turning against me. And every time I tried to profess my hashtag innocence, I was mocked, scoffed at, and cast aside by many of you. Now, to those people who stuck with me through this whole ordeal, you have my thanks. But all of you who were actually taken in by this BS, I hope you're watching. Because right here, right now, I am finally going to get to the bottom of this once and for all, and this is gonna be so sweet. So, the cat's out of the bag. I am not, I repeat, not the leader of the Aces and Eights. Bully Ray is the leader of the Aces and Eights. Your lies have finally been exposed, and you must feel like the biggest jackass on earth right now. Nah, not really. What? I'm okay with how this turned out. What? You were right. I lied. I made up the whole thing. And it was an awful lot of fun using it to make your life miserable these last few months. But to tell you the truth, I was getting kind of bored with the idea now, and I think other concerned parties were too. So the time had really come to put an end to it. And I'm looking forward to what comes next. That's it? You're not angry or pissed off that you've been revealed as a fraud? So all those months of you accusing me of making me look like the scum of the earth? All that buildup, all that hype, just for a huge fucking anticlimax? Didn't see that coming, did you? But why? Just to see the look on your face right now. Ass. I can't believe this is happening to me. Oh yeah, happening to you. To you. What an idiot. You really think I have absolutely nothing else to do with my time than make your life a living hell? Sorry to burst your bubble, moron, but you're not that interesting. I have endeavors that go beyond standing in this room watching you bitch to a video camera week after week. But that never occurred to you, did it? No. And that's what's always been your problem. You think everything is all about you. Well, let me clue you in on something, dickless. It isn't. It's not about me. It's not about me? But if all this wasn't about me, then who was it about? Hey, wait a minute. If this wasn't about me, then who was it about? Hey, come back, wait.